So we're with Mick Hannam, who I've known for a good few years. I think, again, I was at Page when we first started speaking, Mick. And joining us on the podcast, talk things safety, and most importantly, I guess, talk about his background and how you've gotten to where you are. So, Mick, I mean, just for those that obviously don't know you, fill us in, mate. How did you get into safety, and tell us a bit about yourself?
Thanks, John, and thanks for having me here today. I've been in operational roles for the majority of my early career in mining operations around Australia. I spent some time in gold and diamonds, coal, bauxite, iron ore, and moved around the industry, and then sort of moved into crawled out of the pit, if you'd like to think that, and then and moved into office-based roles. And then I joined the operations centre for Rio Tinto back in around about 2008 when they were setting up the operations centre out at the airport. I sort of spent some time with operational teams, and then sort of moved to the coastal operations for iron ore, and then spent a lot of time in the iron ore operations and into the corporate offices, where I then got into safety roles, contractor management, safety roles, and then from there I sort of moved into global safety roles, looking after subsea moorings or oil and gas type of places, maritime positions, and then I went to Asia Pacific, and then eventually I went back into mining for a short period of time, and lo and behold, I set up my own business called Think Risk.
There we are, and you've done both sides. Contractor side, contractor management, and then client side. So, I mean, talk me around that. I mean, obviously every business is different. A lot of people want to be one track or the other. How does that sit with you?
Well, it's interesting when you're working for, let's call it the client.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think they've got mature systems, and you rock up and you think, wow, this is going to be great. This is where my newfound place is going to be. But sometimes they don't have that. They don't have the maturity, and you've got to create that yourself. So, you take your learned experiences and you take it from role to role, and your role as a safety professional is to, first to be second. So you grab all of that stuff that you've learned from a previous place, and then you improve on that, and you create, and that work in another place, but not work in another. So I guess from my point of view, going to a client or a contractor, doesn't really matter where you sit in the chain. It matters about what you do while you're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mick, who are you outside of your professional career and your personal life?
Well, that's a good question. I guess for me, I'm husband of one and father of four, if I can describe it like that. I'm pretty proud of all of my family. I've got 3 boys and a girl. I think my girl runs the house. I'm not too sure who does run the house sometimes, but I'm proud of my wife. She's got a pretty cool job here in Perth. My interests are, I'm a mad keen fisherman, and I don't get enough of it because I spend a lot of time in safety processes. So when I can, I try and get out in the boat, try and catch as many crayfish as I can, to the limit, of course, because I know fishing. And I'm also a St Kilda Tragic. So I was born in 1967. So my team won their only grand final in 1966. So let's hope for 2023.
We'll get another one in your lifetime, mate.
Let's hope.
So what's the biggest learning? This is I guess the key part of really these conversations. But what's the biggest learning, Meg, that you'd give your younger self as someone that's done a bit of everything? With a lot of iterations, what's the biggest learning you'd give your younger self if you go back?
I think as I've gotten older, I think I've got more patient, and I don't know whether it's because I've had kids a little bit later in life as well. I had kids from a previous marriage, and then the second family. I think understanding that people are awesome. When you're a young self, you're trying to get things done, and you're trying to make things happen, and you're in a rush, but you're on the same pathway as everyone else. And I think when you look back on your career or whatever you've done, it's not about where you're trying to get to. It's about the legacy you've left behind and the people that you meet. And I think for me, in a safety role, whenever I've done investigations or when I've been involved in safety processes or improvements, it's always the people that you don't think are going to provide the nuggets, because they're the ones that really provide you with the opportunities. And so for me, I think that people are awesome, and you just need to have a look at what's in front of them, not what's behind them.
Also, that piece about everyone moving along the same line. I remember like early 20s coming out of uni, and just like the rush that I was in as a person. And I think it just realizing the race is long as well, doesn't all have to happen.
Yeah.
It's more about the journey, isn't
it?
Exactly.
Exactly. But what about advice for safety professionals in terms of what they should bring into their professional life? As someone again that's had a long career, what would you advise safety professionals? I know you occasionally do as well.
Yeah, safety. I guess be curious. Safety professionals sometimes are taught and I wouldn't say bullied, but they're driven into ticking a box. I think as a safety professional, if you maintain that healthy curiosity and still be able to balance the client requirements with the compliance, they're not mutually exclusive. So I think if you can be curious as well as maintaining a sense of integrity along the way, you'll always come out in front by being true to yourself and the organisation that you work for and your people that you support.
I think that's just important in so many professions as well. Curiosity, just in general, I think, is an underrated self-improvement skill, right, or quality. But
it's about influence. It's about influence, John. I guess you can influence an outcome with everyone winning, and I think it's a really important part as a health and safety professional that you've got to find people that can influence the outcome, because often you're driven to get an outcome, but you're looking in the wrong areas about who the main influence are, and it's not the supervisor. It's sometimes the shovel operator or the bloke that's down on the bench. Exploding the holes, the bloke that actually has been there for 15 years and quietly does his job. It's the person of influence. You don't need to necessarily go to the line.
Yeah.
So what is it that you look for when you're hiring safety professionals?
I guess someone that can,
outside of curiosity,
I guess somebody that can poke fun at themselves, don't take themselves too seriously. I think you've got to be a fairly rounded person and able to articulate what you're trying to ask, because you've got to have that sense of curiosity to get what you need to get out of people. And I think you've got to be able to be transparent enough that you can actually, I guess, go and find the information that you're looking for. So for a safety professional, I think you've got to be a fairly rounded individual, and you've got to be patient, because if you expect that, it's going to be what you come out of university to do in the textbook, it's not like that, because at the end of the day, while it's theoretical, people are different. You can work with machines as quickly as you like, but the theory part is there just to refer back to. So I think it's more about connecting with people, because safety is about trust.
I think that's often underrated as well, or underappreciated, that it's very much a soft. Yeah, I mean, it's becoming more technical, and as there's more and more educational courses being released and becoming more of a profession than perhaps it was, but it's still very much soft skills. So it's probably key to a lot of success.
Yeah, 100%.
What's leadership to you, Mick, and how do you lead in your life professionally and personally?
I sort of mentioned it before, but leadership's about trust and developing others. And I think, I look to see what I can do for other people rather than what they can do for me to progress the organisation. So I think that servant leadership piece around, being open, being transparent, being humble, I think being able to talk with others so that, they can see your humility. So, I wear my heart on my sleeve. People know when I don't know what I'm doing. I'm quite happy to tell people, and I'm, 56. I don't know everything. I've still got hopefully another 45 years left to get to 101. But at the same time, I think, I've got so much more to learn, and I need to learn from 25-year-olds, 20-year-olds. I need to learn from everyone.
Yeah.
So I think it's about that sense of humility and being able to learn from others.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So touching on that, who's been a professional influence to you in your career?
I guess I've had quite a number of leaders who provided me with mentoring and behaviours, and that's both positive and negative. I've seen some leaders about how not to behave, and I've taken that and put that into my product belt to say, I won't do that again, or I won't do that ever again. But I've seen some behaviours, and every person I guess I interact with, you try and take a piece from them and give a little piece to others. So I think I've certainly learned from quite a lot of people, but I guess you sort of learn from a lot of people that have been in crisis, because when people are in crisis, that's when you can see how they sort of treat others, how they deal with things in a fairly systematic, structured way.
You see their real character.
Yeah, you get a real sense of character from people in a crisis, and I've had a few crises through my time, and most safety leaders would, unfortunately, but you sort of get conditioned to that as you sort of get older and you've been in the role for a while.
Well, that's the nature of it, right? It's to avoid crises, but it's or crises, but that's what happens when you've got the skin in the game for the amount of years that you do, right?
Yeah, and somebody's got to do it.
That's it, mate. So this is really where I wanted to get to, because I know we've actually talked about this in the past, but where do you see the profession evolving to as it grows? The safety, that is.
Well, it's as a bloke with grey hair, it's pretty cool to watch the industry changing shape in front of my eyes with technology. I think innovation is going to be key to putting safety at the forefront of organisations. I think if I look at it from a higher level, boards and directors and senior leadership teams are getting so much more information and data to be able to make decisions. So previously, I think they weren't able to, I guess, put a figure on it, or put a value, or put a description around why it was important to be a safe organisation. But these days, I think we're certainly going to see a lot more of that. I see. I'm curious about the due diligence index, and I see that as something. Knowing your workers, getting the insight to the workers, understanding what drives your business, and combining that with the risk appetite of the organisation is something that's going to be really important for organisations to grasp and get hold of. And to do that, you've got to use data. So innovation, being able to use practical tools. I mean, I use a tool called Strategy X, which is fantastic as a productivity tool. It drives my business. It certainly provides a lot of accountability and process. I'm fairly process driven, so I think getting all of that type of stuff. I see Chat GPT as something that isn't going to go away. I can see that being a great tool to use going forward, because I mean, while I've had many years of experience in the field, I'm still only my bandwidth is only that much. But if I ask a GPT tool to give me information on different industries, all of a sudden my experiences become so much more broader, and then I can ask more pertinent questions around that. So I think using technology like the chat bots, the AI type of technology, is going to be critical for the future of the organisation in safety.
Well, you've seen it. Well, we've seen it, right, so many times, like the progression of technology. And I think, let's be honest, the AI hasn't. The reason everyone's talking about this is the first time really that it's actually markedly good comparative to anything else. It used to be so annoying where you'd have the little pop-up come and you'd have the chat bot, and it just wasn't there. But now it's impressive and it's real time and it can happen in front of your eyes, and I think it opens up so many possibilities for everyone. But
in the next phase, John, I mean, you're going to get a safety professional that you can talk to. I've seen avatars being built that you can actually talk to, and then you can ask a safety question, and then that avatar then describes back to you what you're actually talking about, or what you're asking. So getting another person on the other end of the screen that you can talk to just like this is the next phase. And then take that another step further, putting that into robotics. You can actually have a robotic safety advisor, if you like, walking around site, and that person can see the artificial machine learning type of stuff. You can see when things are out of whack. You can see when people aren't providing the right behaviours or going against the sequence of a procedure. The robot or the technology will then provide the advice to the individual and ask the question why.
I think, we're putting that in, what Cam Stevens is doing with the VR stuff as well. And there's a lot of things that I think will come together at once as well, potentially, and it'll be that change that I remember from 5 years ago of how we're doing things differently, and it'll just be like night and day and we forget what we used to do. But what I wanted to ask is, how is that fitting in with your business and what you're doing, and tell people a little bit about that and what Think Risk is.
Thanks, John. So I guess Think Risk is a sourcing, resourcing, and outsourcing business. So we're helping companies with their management system maintenance. We're building work health and safety systems for companies that don't have a lot of things in place. We're providing resourcing as required and into organisations and the struggle street's real, and I'm sure you're aware of this. Trying to find health and safety resources to be able to fit for clients, because there's so many people screaming out for a health and safety resource. So my advice for a young person now, if you have a ticket, jump back in, because there's so many roles available. The outsourcing piece for me is exciting. I run an offshore business out of the Philippines. I've got 20 to 25 remote health and safety administration people that do the administration for companies that don't have the time. My people work in the business for companies, so the people that run the businesses or a senior in the business can work on the business. They can do more strategic type of work. That administration doesn't go away. I've seen plenty of business owners that, after they finish their day-to-day, they've done their BD, they've done their record keeping, then they've got to go home and do their compliance and all that other stuff that they've got to do for work health and safety. So my people sort of stand in for that type of stuff. They become part of your business. So my outsourcing businesses, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. And I think, I guess it's the on-demand and similar time zone, but especially we see this at that administrative and what we'd say junior level, like compliance level. That's probably the toughest area to recruit in at the moment, because there is so much demand for that relatively, junior roles, say, and administrative roles. Yeah. It's under such demand.
And I'll tell you why, John. I've got a strong view of this. It's because that's the entry level role, whether it's data entry, whether it's administration, whether it's compliance reporting. That person, as soon as they get there, that's their leg into the industry. Then and generally speaking, as soon as they get there, they're looking for their next role, and they want to be a mobilisation coordinator, or they want to be a specialist, or they want to, within the first 6 months, the millennials are looking for their next opportunity. But if you hire hard to manage easy, you might get the right person, but if you outsource it to the right company, that's what you get, and you lock that role in. You train that person for months and months and months, and they're there. They don't go anywhere. That's all they want to do.
Yeah. You've been running it for a good couple of years now, right? It's good to see that you've gone all in now, and it's going.
Yeah,
well.
I'm all in. I'm very excited. I can remember the day. It was probably September the 23rd at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, pretty clearly. I actually decided that day, and I took my wife out, and I said, this is the last day I'll ever work for another organisation as a full-time employee. And that was for 38 years I did that. So to hit that milestone at 55, to be able to say, I'm not going to work for another organisation ever again, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I remember you telling me about that not long after. I think it would have been October, and having that feeling. It's awesome though to see you doing so well as well. But I guess, you know, one final note on that sense that certainly not for everyone. We often see a lot of people that quit roles to, I guess, become self-employed and be a consultant. I know it's different to what you were doing, but as I said, you were 55 years old when you went out on your own. Do you have any advice to people that are thinking that in terms of a safety sense?
I guess back yourself. I think at the end of the day, you've got to have confidence in your own product. I'm in global roles currently, so I'm working with a couple of large majors overseas. I'm helping out with different types of industries, FPSOs, construction, marine. I get to go to visit different places around the world, and I think as a you know, if you're stuck in a box and you think you're sick of looking out the window and seeing the cars drive past, take the plunge and go and see the world, because if you put your name out there and you've got a good product to sell and you back yourself, the world's your oyster. There's so many people out there other than the street that you live on.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with you.
Yeah, that's right. I know that.
But Nick, look, thanks a lot for jumping on and I guess giving your insights. I'll put your LinkedIn and in the show notes, and then also you know, a link to Think Risk for anyone that's interested. And obviously, if you don't know Mick and you want to reach out, I imagine you're always open to have a chat. I've seen you mentor a few people through AIHS as well, so we're always open to have that chat as well, mate.
Yeah. And just a quick plug too, John. I guess one of the things that happened yesterday I'm pretty excited about is I was invited into the College of the AIHS as a fellow. So I received my fellowship of the AIHS yesterday, and part of that is around the innovation for safety processes and the mentoring for young health and safety professionals. So if anyone wants to reach out to ask a question, ask about why they should be continuing to do the job, because it can be a tough gig. And if you're worried about it, come and have a chat, because it's quite rewarding.
Brilliant. And on that note, we're going to see you next Thursday at the AIHS event here.
I'm in Manila.
That's right. You did say you did. I tried to catch you out.
I'm heading to the Philippines, so unfortunately, I won't be there.
Mate, you got to go and work, mate. That's the reality of it, isn't it? But
yeah, but I'm looking forward to the next time we can catch up, John.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
And you, of course.
But guys, Mick Hannam and Mick, thanks a lot for being on.
No worries. Thanks very much, John, and great work.
Cheers.
Thanks.